in fact, I want to say this first, that like, obviously could be potentially like quite trigger warning, so it could be quite a subject that you might not want to listen to. So if you don't want to listen to this part of the episode, then now's probably the time to cut off. But yeah, I think, what was your thoughts? Let me just keep my mouth shut. What was your thoughts on the interview with Noel Clarke?
It didn't really leave me with more understanding than I had before I watched it. It helped me. When I put it on, I had to really just clear my mind of any biases, just any pre-thoughts that I had, any feelings I had about the situation. I just needed to listen to it objectively. And when I came out of it, I was unsure. And yeah.
Can I just ask you a quick question though? So, because I'll forget. Was you able to do that though? Like clear your mind of, maybe you can, but would you be able to do that? Because I can't do that. If I know something, I know it. But was you able to sort of like separate what you know to be able to kind of watch that without that kind of knowing what you know sort of thing, resetting your memory a little bit?
No, I tried. To be honest, maybe the first 5-10 minutes, but then afterwards, because of the demeanor of how the interview was done and the questions and all of this stuff. So the best I could do is just acknowledge when I was getting a feeling about it, but thinking this is probably because of something I knew before, I read or whatever. I think one of the things it highlights is a lot of problems, not just in that industry, but in a lot of industries in that period of time, and how much of a mess it's going to be to undo it, and how much of a mess it's going to be to understand. I'm getting myself in a muddle, but just it makes me think I don't really it makes me sense. I feel like I don't understand people, because some stuff makes sense, some stuff doesn't really make sense. I'm not sure what the motive was. I do know what the motive was behind it, but it feels like an ulterior motive that's not clear as well. No one is going to win in a situation like that. I know we're not really going to talk about it, but it reminded me of like everything going on with Mason Greenwood at the moment. I can't really understand, because there's probably so much little bits of truth to everything that you're hearing, but you're not quite sure which bits are the true bits and which bits are probably not, because someone's lying or someone is not understood or not aware of the situation. And that interview didn't clear any of that up for me. But that was my thoughts. What about you, Cuz?
Yeah, it's mad, because I think I agree with you. I think it's hard when, and I don't want to I don't want the conversation to be is he guilty or is he not guilty, because I don't think that's even something we can determine without evidence. And I think that's the key thing. The key thing is, just because there was no, and in the interview he says obviously he was never interviewed by the police, and all the women that were accusing him of whatever they accused him of, they went to the papers rather than the police. Well, he's saying that we don't know that. The police might have said, look, there's no evidence, we can't pursue this. The CPS are never going to take on a case regardless of anything. This is why when you just brought Mason Greenwood, that's a very good example. If they lose a key witness like they did in the Mason Greenwood, the CPS are not taking on that case. So just because there's no investigation or there's no criminal charges brought to someone doesn't mean they're not guilty, or they're guilty, we don't know. But it was a weird interview, and I think it's a weird thing to go on a press run, which is what I see it as, because it's not just that one. I think there's another podcast, another couple that he's been on, and what struck me in that interview, and I want to ask another question in a minute, but what struck me in that interview was how controlling, and Kanye West does this a lot in his interviews as well, where he controls the conversation without letting the interviewer know that they're controlling the conversation. There's a way that people do it where they might think they're in control, but they're actually not. And if you rewatch it, or if anyone who hasn't watched it or they have, go and rewatch it, you can tell that he is in control of that whole conversation. And I find it, some of the answers to the questions that he was asked were very, not even vague. I just think they're kind of, so what kind of thing. That was the attitude I got from it. It was like, yeah, but so what? And if it was me and I was accused of those things, regardless of whether I did it or not, I would have remorse. Regardless, I don't care whether, if you're a human being, there was zero like accountability or remorse. And I think even if you weren't, because he admitted to certain things in the interview that he did, and he said, I did that, but he never said, oh, I did it, but you know, I apologize for that if I offended anyone, or I learned from that in a way that I could then go on. And I think that it was, for me, and the question I want to ask you is, if someone has been accused of something and then they either not guilty or guilty, because let's be honest, some people are guilty of stuff and they become, you know, reformed and changed or whatever, should they still be able to voice not even their opinion, but give their side of a story, or give their side of something that's happened that's impacted them, whether it's good or bad? Should they still be able to do that, I suppose?
I mean, my straightforward answer is yeah, because, you know, who are we to necessarily pass judgment and tell people what they can and can't do? How you feel about it and what you want to do with that information then is probably more the issue. And I think that's where a lot of us, our egos take over, and we just want to say, oh, well, but you've done that, so, you know, and it stops us from really understanding why people do things, so we can then come up with preventative things as well. It's tricky though, when, because in that interview, and I'm just referencing what was in there. There are things like, you know, if somebody feels something happens, they can either go to the police or they can go to this place or that place. And I'm thinking, okay, but realistically, what we kind of know is that when people have been abused, I'm not saying that that was the case this time, but if they've been abused or assaulted or whatever, particularly women, they can't actually go to those places because quite often they're laughed out the room, or they're dismissed, or they end up getting abused again by the people supposed to help them. So it's things like that where you think, this is it's kind of pointless whether they're guilty or not, because this is not showing or telling us anything. It's just not antagonized. The same with the whole thing with the laptop, so many times referenced, oh yeah, look, the emails are on there, the emails are on there, can we see them? No, I'm not going to show you. It's just like,
to give him his credit though, on the Winners Talking podcast, he does actually get the laptop out and he does show it. But I hear your point, because he referenced it a lot. And it wasn't even just that though. There was other things that Zeze asked him, and I can't answer that. And I feel there's legal things going on, which he said on multiple occasions on that thing. Oh, I can't talk about it. It's legal. Why are you on the podcast? I don't get that. What are you? For me, if I could speak to him now, I'd be saying, what did you think you was going to gain by doing this little podcast press run? And or at all, because it ain't gonna give him. I don't think it opens a door for him back into being in the film industry or the acting industry again. I get he probably wants to try and clear his name, but I don't know if he's done that with these interviews. So I don't get. And again, it goes back to my point. What if not just him? I'm talking anyone. What purpose would it do without substantial evidence to say, you know, like the Neymar situation? Remember when he nearly got blackmailed and he had the camera set up in the room? Now that, I would come out and do a podcast and be like, look, you can see the information's there, this is what happened, I had this here, she's blackmailed me, here's the camera, here's the footage. But he hasn't got any of that. So I don't get what he was getting from trying to clear his name in that way. I don't know. I think it was and 20, I mean, I'm not a judge on nothing, or I don't work for that, but 20 women is a lot of women to accuse you of some shit for it to not be true. I'm sorry. That's just my own
it's a big
opinion.
Amount. And the reason why, when you asked me before, should people come and say their side, particularly when they're on the, I don't know what we call, like the defense, I guess. I think actually it's good, because you get to see what that person is like anyway. You can't judge things just on body language, but
No,
as
I
in
can.
you can, but I
I
mean,
can.
as in you can't determine someone's guilt or innocence on that. But what it tells you is a bit about what that person is like and where their mind is. And sometimes it's a bit helpful to see that anyway, because that is one thing I did get from it. I'm not going to go into too much because at the end of the day, like I wasn't there. I don't know. 20 is a lot, but also we
Yeah,
know
yeah.
that certain people have motives as well. I don't know, and it just what I've read, I kind of know what my opinion is, and I know why it is that. But just what I learned was just by seeing that there is an issue there that left me feeling very uncomfortable, like that whole controlling thing. I don't know if that's a general thing or particularly with them. A lot of the talking over, like you say, the lack of remorse, and I kind of both of us anyway know what the industry would have been like around that time, what was going on in society. Do you know what I mean? So it helps to fill in a few gaps or suspicions that you had just by seeing someone behave in that kind of environment.
I agree, and I think it's difficult because some of the points he made, I do agree with. Like, obviously, Carnival is a big example. Like, and I'm not condoning what happens at Carnival, whatever happens there, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But when he mentioned that, and he was like, when you and even growing up in school, I'll be honest, like it was a bit mad, like for boys and girls in school. I'll be honest, like I didn't partake in it, but I know that I've seen a lot of stuff in school. So that era was like that, and the music industry is still like that to this day. Like there's things happening in the music industry that one day will come to light, and whoever wants to bring it to light will bring it to light. But I can tell you for factual stuff offline that things happen in the music industry very similar to that industry there, if not worse. So it does happen, and for me, it was just like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry, like so, we spoke about cancel culture on here before. It's not a case of him being cancelled. I think it's just what is the end gain from doing that? What did you benefit from that? And it just didn't sit right with me, man. The whole interview didn't sit right with me. The whole thing didn't sit right with me. If it was me as well, I don't think I would come out and do a podcast. I'd probably just release a statement. You get what I'm saying? Because then I think he made himself look worse by doing that, because when Zeze asked him the certain questions, he couldn't answer them. And now if you're an innocent man, I'm just answering the question, innit? Like, I don't give a shit what anyone thinks legally, unless he's trying to sue people, which could be that. But if it is, then cool. But if I'm not doing that, I'm just answering the question. I ain't gotta say to you, I can't get the laptop. I can't answer that. It's. I think unless it's a Neymar situation where you've got some evidence of something, or you're in court and you're found, I don't know, you've done something mad, and the DNA comes back that it's not you, and you're unanimously found not guilty of something, then 100% go out there and clear your name. Make sure that you're there. Oh, someone's lied. Like the woman that nearly got the, I think she's from Bradford or somewhere, and she got 8 years recently. Someone like her, imagine them man, like the men there, even though they're found not guilty, they're still gonna have a label on them. Do you know what I'm saying? So people like that, I get why they're trying to do it, but when you're in this grey area still, and we don't know whether you did or you didn't, you're better off just keeping your mouth shut, because if something comes out, you're going to look stupid.
It's true, and I find it quite ironic that he's saying to go through the process with, like, if they feel that something's happened, they should go through the process. I don't understand why he doesn't go through the process first and then do the podcast. That's what I said, the timing. Just do it after, like, release all your stuff, then you can talk about everything till the cows come home. If he's saying he's done all this thing for the industry, which I'm sure it's true, and kudos, like it's opened up doors. But my feeling is, then if you've done that behind the scenes, why you bring this up now? Do you know what I mean?
It worries me as well, though, because we already know, like, going to the police doesn't mean shit in this day and age. And if you've read like the news for the last couple of months, the Met Police isn't the best
for a lot of things,
people to be going to for things like that. I'm just being honest. Like, they're not. We've seen a lot of things about them in the papers, and not even just the Met, just overall in society right now. And like I said, if there's no evidence, it doesn't mean you're not guilty. It just means that there's lack of evidence. Unless someone's got video footage, the Neymar situation, it's their word against his word. What evidence are you going to be able to show to say that someone says something inappropriate to you, apart from verbally, unless you recorded them? Back then, no one was recording shit. So it's like it don't sit right with me, and yeah, I don't know, man. We can't sit here and say someone's guilty when we don't have evidence, and we can't say they're not guilty.
This is the thing, though. We both came out of that thinking this has not cleared anything up. It's raised more questions, and also 100. I don't understand why this and why now. Do you know what I mean? But yeah.
I hear you, man. But yeah, I am. Are you gonna watch the other ones? Are you watching the other ones, or you? Because I know you wasn't very keen on that first one. In terms of the format, sorry, not in terms of the is he guilty, not guilty, did he do, not that bit, just in terms of the whole thing. I know you wasn't 100% keen on.
Yeah, I think I will, because like I said, the more you watch something, the more you can understand. There might probably isn't going to be a conclusion, but you can understand people's behavior and how people talk and act, and things you can look out for. Because like you said, whether he's guilty or not, there's a hell of a lot of these cases that are probably going to be popping up here, then everywhere. And sometimes, if you're going to follow it or whatever, it's just useful to see. This one is quite a new-ish kind of one for that kind of person, thinking about where he's from and the age and stuff. So I'll watch it just from a curiosity point of view, but there's too much of this grey area stuff coming out. When I say grey area, I don't mean it's okay to do it or it might not be okay to do it. I just mean it just sounds super messy, and I don't even know how to break it down and think about it. But there's a lot of it, and there's no right answer. It's just a mess that's happened in the first place in whichever way, and nobody wins from this. Do you know what I mean? No one, not them, not me, not you. It's a mess.
It's true, man. And yeah, I think just to round up on it, I think it's difficult for women and men or whoever to come forward, because a lot of the time these are probably the hardest. Like I said at the very start of this is one of the hardest things to get a conviction on. Like murder, there's normally a weapon or a body or DNA is left or something. But when these kind of things happen, it is one of the hardest things. The CPS are not picking up cases where they are 40-50%.
Yeah, they want the rate.
Are they going to get a conviction? They want something where they know, because I'm sure as well, if they appealed, the CPS might have to pick up the legal fees for if they lose, the CPS would have to pay the accused person's legal cost as well, or if they appealed it. So there's a lot at stake, and this is why it's hard to get convictions for things like this, because it ain't a case of just saying, oh, he done that to me, and the CPS go, oh yeah, okay, let's take it to court. It don't work like that. That's why when people say, oh, why don't you just go to the police, because the police probably think this is just paperwork for me. I ain't doing it.
No, it's real, isn't it? That's what they're thinking.
Yeah, so they're thinking paperwork, more paperwork, CPS got to get involved, it's long. Do you know what I mean? But it shouldn't not be that. I'm not saying that's the right way. I'm saying that should not be the way, and that it should be addressed more, and it has to be addressed more. And if these accusations 20 or whatever, one's too many in my opinion. So but we're going to put some links to charities and organizations for this episode. I think in the link as well for anyone who is still listening to this part of the episode as well, just as support networks and other stuff that we can try and reach out for people as well. But yeah, it's a mad one. I'll be honest, it's mad, it really is. I think I need a nap after that, to be fair.
Let's try it tomorrow. Have some fried dumpling, and it's the place that you go to.
That's why you're falling asleep, Yeah, you're eating them hard food, big hard food in the middle of the day. Nah, man. Hard food, little yam, little green banana, them thing there. Man, but I might try. I'm off now anyway for 2 weeks. Literally got half term in it, so I might have to try and. I was gonna say kids, but I might have to delete that.
Yeah, 100%. Oh man!
I'll take that bit
my
out. Sorry,
God!
no.
It's for the bloopers.
That's the first one. That's my first strike. Sorry, but I meant like just keep them calm somehow.
Hey, just stop talking. Stop talking.
But then I'll try it. But listen, this has been episode 3. Stay tuned. I was gonna say what the title is, but I haven't got the title ready yet for this one. But if you're on subscribe, make sure you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Leave comments as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. If you're on Apple or Spotify, make sure you again hit that link. That'll take you to all our socials on there as well. So make sure you subscribe to them as well. Episode 3 done, wrapped up. Make sure you have a good weekend. When's Easter as well? It's not this weekend. It's next weekend, isn't it? Yeah, Good Friday, man. Little bit of fish and little dumpling thing.
100% than a nap, yeah.
That man. Look at Aki, man, and a nap, yeah, 100%, man. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll be back next week, man. Good Friday. So next week's Good Friday, yeah? Yeah, Good Friday next week, man. Have a good week, people, and a good weekend. Premier League is back as well for the football fans, so let's hope Chelsea get us some results and United 100%. For you, innit?
100%.
Yeah, man. Stay blessed, everyone.